Hello there. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about an overview of long-term disability benefits in Alberta. I've broken this video down into 3 parts to make it easier to digest, and they are long-term disability basics, sources of long-term disability benefits and types of benefits, and number 3, how to go about applying for the various types of benefits. All right, now after watching this video, you're going to have an understanding of how long-term disability works in Alberta, the sources and types of benefits, and finally, how to go about getting them. Let's dive into this thing. So let's start with some of the long-term disability basics. There are 4 areas I want to talk to you about. Number 1 is going to be, what is long-term disability? Second, I'll talk a bit about how does long-term disability work. We'll talk about what medical conditions qualify for long-term disability. And finally, we'll cover the difference between own occupation and any occupation. So let's start with what is long-term disability. Quite simply, it's a financial benefit paid to people who have lost the ability to earn income from work because of a illness, disability, or medical condition. These types of benefits are usually going to be paid on a monthly basis to people, and they will cover anywhere from 60% up to 80% of your, or 90% of your income in a lot of cases. In some cases, it will be less than that. The payments can go to age 65, and they are going to be paid either through a government program, an insurance company, or sometimes your employer. So how does it work? They all work roughly the same way. It's based on an application approval process. So in all instances, you need to get application forms, fill them out, send them into the planner program. They assign people to review them. Those people will decide to approve or deny your application based on the information you've sent in and information from your doctors. If you get denied, all of them have a process for you to appeal, to ask them to reconsider it. You can put more information in, clarification, and ultimately they'll get to a point where there's a final decision, but there's a couple steps there. So it's the same process for all of them, but think about it that way. It's an application approval type process, and you have to apply for each of these separately based on the planner program. What medical conditions qualify? This is one of the most common questions. Any medical condition can, in theory, qualify for long-term disability. It's not as important the medical condition as it is the disability or impairment arising from that condition. For example, multiple sclerosis is widely seen as a very serious medical condition, but simply being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis will not get you approved or for long-term disability from any type of plan or program. They'll look a little bit deeper than that and say, well, how serious is your multiple sclerosis? Because there's people with multiple sclerosis who can still work, no problem. So they will look at how is it affecting your day-to-day activities and ability to work, and you'll have to prove that the impairments are at a level that are disabling. So the focus will always be on the level of impairment, not the medical condition itself. Keep that in mind because it's a big mistake that people make. All right, finally, I want to talk about this thing about own occupation and any occupation. This is a concept you're going to see. What it means is that these long-term disability will cover you for either, most of them will cover you as long as you can't do any type of work. That's what's called any occupation. So you'd have to prove that there's no job out there that you would be able to do on a regular basis. You'd have to prove that that's the case in order to get benefits. That's called any occupation coverage. Own occupation means that there are certain disability plans that will still pay you as long as you can show just simply you can't do your own job. You might be able to do other work, easier work, but you can't do your own job. That is the difference. So whenever you're applying for benefits, you want to understand, am I applying to a plan where it's focused on whether I can do my own job? Or is the plan I'm applying to requiring that I have to show that I can't do any job? This is, again, a common mistake people make. Doctors will often say, oh, they can't do their job, but the plan says, well, it's not just their job, it's like any job. So be careful about that and understand it before you start applying to these programs. Part 2, sources and types of long-term disability. There are 3 sources of long-term disability in Alberta. Let's run through them. First of all, there's insurance companies that issue policies for the province. Okay, that's a simple one. Number 2 is the province of Alberta itself has programs for covering long-term disability, and we're going to go into that. And third, you got the federal government, who has some federal programs that apply equally to people in Alberta. Let's look at the first one, long-term disability insurance policies. So there are 3 types of policies that we see. The first one are individual policies. Then we have group policies. And finally, there's ones I just call special purpose policies, and I'll explain that one last. So let's start with individual policies. These are policies that would be issued to you. It's an insurance policy that's issued to you personally. You've bought it from a broker. It'll cover you in the event that you're not able to work because of disability. These are some of the best policies out there, and they can have all types of different conditions and things like that. You will definitely, if you have one of these policies, you should get legal advice about what it covers and doesn't cover, because it's a little more technical than what I'm going to cover next with the group policies. Now, with group policies, these are long-term disability that is embedded within larger policies that cover group benefits for a workplace. Think about if you have benefits through your work for a medical plan, dental, this type of thing. It's possible that there's short or long-term disability benefits included in that same plan. You'll want to look into that. With these types of group plans, they'll usually cover you from anywhere from 60 to about 75% of your income. And the benefits typically will last to age 65. And typically, there will be a period of 2 years where you'll get paid if you can't do your own occupation. And then after 2 years, you can still be paid under these plans as long as you can prove you can't do any occupation. Most of these plans will go to age 65, and they're good benefits if you have them. So check it out. See if you actually have this as part of your group plan. Now, last are kind of a hodgepodge of benefits. They're not long-term disability per se, but they're kind of on the fringes here. So I thought I'd just bring them up. The first is creditor disability insurance. This is a special disability insurance attached to loans and credit lines, visas, this type of thing. It's something you'd had to pay for, but people sometimes forget that they said, yes, I'll take that. If you get approved, what happens is that creditor insurance will just pay the premiums that are owed. Sometimes it'll pay off the balance of what's owed, but you'll have to see what your coverage is. Next, we have critical illness. That's a type of coverage where if you have a listed illness that's in the insurance policy, they will pay you a lump sum of money. It can be a lot sometimes. It can be hundreds of thousands. But it has to be a listed illness, and you have to survive for 30 days type of thing. But it's good if you have it. You can get this individual policies, and it's often included in group policies as well. So you want to see if you have that. The next one is similar, is accidental death and dismemberment type coverage. It's similar in that it lists a bunch of injuries or kind of impairments that you can suffer, like losing a finger, losing an arm, losing a leg, losing an eye, going blind, this type of stuff, losing your voice. These are all things that are covered, these kind of events, and each event has a money next to it. So if you lose an eye, it's $30,000 or something like that, right? So you'll want to check to see if you have this. It's often included in group plans. You might have bought this privately as well, but usually you're going to see this in group plans. Next, there's life insurance. I won't go into that. Everybody understands what that is. It's insurance on you. If you die, there's beneficiaries who get a payout. And last, there's travel insurance. This is insurance people have traveling abroad. If you incur medical expenses, you can get them recouped. Not much more to say on that. The next source of disability benefits is the Alberta government, province of Alberta, sort of the same thing. And they have two basic programs that they run for providing long-term disability. The first is Workers' Compensation Board Alberta, WCB Alberta, it's often referred to as. And this is going to provide benefits to people who suffered work-related injuries. Now, you have to suffer a work-related injury or a medical condition, and you have to have an employer that's actually covered by Workers' Comp Alberta. Most of them are going to be, but that's just a technicality there. And the benefits are pretty good. They can go up to 90% of your net wages, up to a maximum earnings of around $98,000. So if you're earning above $98,000, then you're kind of capped out at the benefits that are payable to someone who's $98,000. But still, some of the best benefits out there. Again, to get these, you have to work for a covered employer and have an injury at work. Now, the next program in Alberta is called Assured Income for the Severely Handicapped, AISH. This is Alberta's social assistance program for people with disabilities. To be eligible for this, there's two parts. One is you must meet the level of disability that they require. The second part, which is different than anything else I've discussed so far, is there is a financial criteria. Your family income has to be below a certain level in order to get these benefits. If it's not, you unfortunately won't qualify no matter how disabled you are, if your family income is too high according to them. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, like anyone who's a resident of Alberta can qualify for AISH, but it's going to be the fights are going to be over whether you meet the definition of disability, you're disabled enough, or your family income is low enough below the threshold. So keep that in mind. Last but not least, the government of Canada. There's a couple of programs here from the federal government that all Canadians can get. Number one is the Canada Pension Plan disability benefits. You will have these if you've paid in, if you were a worker and paid into the Canada Pension Plan. That's the only way to get it. You actually have to have paid in. If you qualify, there's a disability test that you have to meet. You have to be unable to basically do any occupation. And if you do, you can qualify for around $1,400 a month as of 2022. That amount goes up every year based on inflation. The benefits can go to age 65, and they're good benefits if you can get them. But you had to have been employed, paid into the Canada Pension Plan, and your disability has to, you have to go off work permanently from disability close in time to when you were paying into the program. I won't go into all the details about it, but just think about that. Like when you had to stop work completely for disability, your disability onset had to be within a couple of years of when you last paid into the plan. So if you just stopped work for some other reason and then got disabled 5 years later and weren't disabled in the meantime, then you likely might not qualify, right? So if you stop work for disability and then go back to work, then you're likely going to qualify if you paid enough into the plan. Next, less known, is employment insurance sickness benefits, EI sickness. These are good benefits for the short term. They only pay 15 weeks, 55% of your income up to a certain cap. I don't know exactly what it is offhand. This is a program intended for the short term. You'll get these benefits for 15 weeks, long enough that you could then qualify for a long-term disability or CPP disability. But keep this one in mind because it can get you through short term. Now, the next one is a disability tax credit. This is not a monthly benefit like everything else here, although the EI sickness is weekly. The disability tax credit doesn't pay that way. It's paid only at the end of the year, and you in the form of our tax refund. So it's like when you file your taxes, if you have paid taxes in and you have this credit, it can result in you getting some money returned to you. And that's how it works. There's not going to be a monthly payment you get. Again, there has to be a taxpayer who's paid in money and there's taxes able to be refunded, okay? So if you haven't paid taxes, there's no benefit to get. But it can apply to you as the person with the disability, or someone in your household or is financially responsible for you or supports you can sometimes qualify for using your disability tax credit. They can claim it on their taxes. All right, lastly, I even hesitate to add this one in here, but I thought I should. This is not a benefit that's available as of the time of this video in 2022. It's called the Canada Disability Benefit. It's promised by the Liberals, but the Liberals promise a lot of things that never happen. But in this case, they've promised this. It does have support from all parties in the government, but it has not been passed yet. It's supposed to be a benefit that will cover you, bring you up to around $20,000 by topping up other benefits that you're already getting. So it's meant to top up your AISH, top up Canada Disability. If you're getting LTD or workers' comp, it might not apply because your income might already be over $20,000. So it's meant for people whose disability income from all their benefits is below 20 to bring them up to 20. Again, it has not been approved yet. Follow us on the YouTube channel here to get updates on this, and also follow us on Facebook. We give up updates on when this benefit's going to come in. Part 3, if I'm not out of breath. Whew. How to get long-term disability benefits. Okay, I'll briefly review this, and you take it for what it's worth. We have other videos that go into more depth. This is just meant to give you some idea. You are going to start by identifying all the sources of benefits that you might be able to qualify for. Like if you have a group plan at work, if you have an individual plan, if you potentially could get AISH, if you've worked and you might get CPP, identify all the ones that can apply, that may apply for you. Then look into those programs and get the application forms. You will then ideally go to the doctor with some of these you're going to apply for at the same time. So take all your forms to the doctor, meet with the doctor in person specifically to fill out your forms, get the doctor to fill out those forms, send them in, and wait for the decisions to come back from the various insurance companies or programs that you're applying to. The programs will assign a person who's going to review your application. They may call you for more information, which is fine, and they may ask you to get more documents also, which is fine. More medical records and such. Usually you're going to want to do that. Once they make a final decision, it'll either be to approve your claim and you get the payments, or they'll deny it. do not lose hope if you get denied. It is a common thing that happens for a number of reasons. Either review why it got denied, they'll give reasons in writing and have your doctor clarify things, or reach out to us or another disability law firm for some advice on how you could approach your appeal. We represent people in appeals, but many people can do appeals on their own as well. All of these, with all of these disability benefits, if the appeals get denied, there will come a point of a final decision maker, which sometimes can be the courts. Sometimes it can be a tribunal, which is like it's not really a court, it's a less formal court, but that exists. So there will become a final decision maker who is independent from either the government agency or the insurance company will be the final decision maker. So make sure you keep appealing those claims all the way to that final decision maker who's independent and get the final decision on your benefits. Okay, that's it. I'm out of breath, but now you know all the sources of long-term disability benefits in Alberta, the types you can apply for. If you like this video, please do me a favor, hit subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment if you think I got anything wrong or you want things clarified, and also head on over to our website, resolutelegal.ca, join our email list for all kinds of goodies and updates on things that happen. I wish you all the best, and I'll see you back here next time.